I was initially hesitant to get into modular synthesis because of how complex it seems and how expensive modular hardware is. But I recently came across this software called VCV Rack that allows you to play around with modular synthesis for free on your computer. It has a pretty extensive library of modules, most of which are free, and there is a fairly large community of users behind it, so there are plenty of tutorials and other resources out there to learn from. So around 3 weeks ago, I started learning how to use it, hoping to finally achieve my dream of making some kind of cool ambient soundscape. In this video, I'll give an overview of what I've learned since then and what I've been able to achieve, if anything. So bearing in mind that I had a basic level of music theory and music production knowledge coming into this, the way that I found it helpful to start thinking about modular synthesis is to kind of break it down into the main different types of modules that you need in order to produce music. So you've got to have something producing the sound, like an oscillator. Then you've got to have something controlling when that sound should be played and also at what pitch, like a sequencer. You'll probably also want to have modules shaping and processing that sound, like different filters or effects or an LFO varying a parameter. And then of course you'll likely have more than one sound in your patch, so you need a mixer to mix those sounds together and output them to your headphones or speakers. These modules are all connected together with wires carrying different types of signals. To do this, you need to have an understanding of the modular-specific terms and acronyms like CV, V/oct, gate, and trigger, and we can inspect these signals with the scope module. There are almost infinite possibilities for combinations of modules and ways that those modules can be connected together. The only limits are your imagination and your CPU. For example, let's generate random notes rather than using a sequencer. And I'll add a glitch effect. And maybe let's add a bunch of effects like ring modulation, delay, reverb. Or let's just completely distort it all. So yeah, basically as you go deeper into modular synthesis, it's about finding different and cool ways to mess with each of those key components of making music, and there are a wide variety of modules to facilitate this. Some provide one simple function, while others combine lots of functions, and I found that often it's not obvious how you would use some of the modules out there until you either see an example of someone using it, or you have an idea one day and it just so happens that the module facilitates that idea. So now I'll show some of the other patches I made while learning VCV Rack. This is one of the first patches I made, and it took me a pretty long time to make, but I attempted to go for a sort of lo-fi ambient vibe. It consists of this pad sound, which is controlled by a sequencer going into this module that produces chords rather than just a single quantized note. Then there is this bass synth. Then there is this synth sound that plays notes generated by this random note module. And the other sound in this patch comes from this sampler, which is recording a synth sound and then playing it back in reverse, which I think gives a pretty cool effect. And yeah, overall I learned a lot making this patch. After I made it, I felt like I had a much better grip on how to do various things, including the basic sound design stuff like envelopes and low pass filters and all of that in modular form. So this is another patch I made, and in this one I attempted to make a beat, which I don't have much experience doing at all, but yeah, it ended up being in the realm of like lo-fi beats to study to. and it consists of this synth sound coming from a module called Supercell, which I put a bit of a sidechain effect on. I also did a few things to try and make the beat feel less static. For example, I used the probability feature of this sequencer to make some beats have only a 50% chance of happening, which adds some variation. I also added a random bit of delay to some beats so it feels more human and less rigid. And I added some random glitches using this glitch module. So this is the final patch I'll share in this video. I started making it just to test out this interesting module called Supercell, and I was trying out all the different modes it had, and it just happened to come together in a way that I really like. So that's why there are a million supercells. So yeah, it consists of some synth sounds going through different supercell modes. There's this kind of drone sound formed of reverb, spectral clouds, and resonator mode. Then there are these pretty kind of water droplet sounds coming from beat repeat mode and granular mode. I also used quite an interesting module called Marbles, which provides the sequencing for the synth sounds. It generates triggers and corresponding notes according to probability parameters you set. And it also has this feature called Deja Vu, where it repeats sequences it's used previously, and there is a parameter to control the amount of Deja Vu that there is. So it's a nice way to have random sequence generation that follows certain constraints that make it sound more like how you want it to. So yeah, I've definitely just scratched the surface of modular synthesis. There are lots of modules and lots of ways for generating rhythms and melodies and sounds that I haven't explored yet, and I've already got more ideas for things I want to try. On the whole, I've really liked experimenting with this stuff. It can definitely be frustrating when something isn't sounding quite right and you're not exactly sure what you need to do to fix that. But I mostly just got really absorbed into making these patches, and I like the fact that modular synthesis is really conducive to introducing randomness and various types of movement to music, whether that be in a small controlled way or in a completely chaotic way.